starting off with the man of the hour, the dude everybody is talking about coming off of last night, Austin Reaves. Austin Reaves has the internet in shambles, and for a good reason. No LeBron, no Luka, no problem. Austin Reaves this season over 5 games. First game, 28 points, 16 assists. Second game, 41 points, 5 assists. 51 points, 9 assists. 25 points, 11 assists. 26 points, 9 assists. So far this season, he is second in points and first in assists this year through 5 games. I saw a really interesting tweet on X/Twitter that I think is a good baseline to work with when talking about Austin Reaves today on the pod. And it's from Jason Timpf, a well renowned NBA analyst, who said, watching the growth of Austin Reaves from solid role player to secondary ball handler to guy who can step up into a lead role when you need him to legit all-star level lead ball handler in this league has been an experience. What a week it has been for him. And it's so crazy. I want to read that part one more time. This middle section that he said. Watching the growth of Austin Reaves from solid role player to secondary ball handler to guy who can step up into a lead role. And this might be a little hyperbolic, but the guy that I think of when you use that linear progression, the poster child to me for that kind of progression as a player in this league is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Austin Reaves and his development as a Los Angeles Laker over the years is so similar to what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has done since being drafted by the LA Clippers. I mean, go back to that time with the Clippers and you watch his progression through until, being traded to Oklahoma City. With the Clippers, he's a role player off the bench. He's playing behind Lou Williams and Patrick Beverley in that guard rotation. He gets moved to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now you're a part of a three-guard rotation with Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder. Then you progress to being the man on the team after Dennis Schroeder is moved off of, and Chris Paul is also going to a different situation. And then he takes the leap from being like the lead guy, but they're still not great, to the lead guy, but he's like an all-star caliber player, to the lead guy, and he's an MVP, right? And I don't know if Austin Reaves is going to be an MVP in this league, but the progression is so similar in terms of just continuing to develop his game, particularly as the tweet mentioned, an on-ball shot creator and development as a overall perimeter generator, whether that's for himself or, again, he's leading the league in assists this year. He's starting to become an even more elite playmaker. There's a graphic that I found that compares Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Austin Reaves through the first 5 games of the season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is averaging more points than him slightly by zero point 0.6. Shai is averaging more rebounds, it's 5.6 to 6.2. But then Austin Reaves is averaging 10 assists to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 5.4. And Shai is averaging 1.4 steals. Austin Reaves is averaging 1.8. Once you get to the shooting splits, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a little bit of a decent advantage, especially from what he's been able to do at the free throw line and in the mid range area. But Austin Reaves has been special. Austin Reaves has put himself in a conversation where a lot of people are discussing him as like, is he the best number three in the NBA, right? And we've had that conversation in a bunch of different iterations beforehand, right? Like even last season, there was the conversations about Chet Holmgren and him being the third option for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we've had this conversation in a bunch of different lights, but Austin Reaves is doing it in a way where we have to go further than just like what he can be as a third option for this Lakers team. See, a lot of people have looked at Austin Reaves as a potential trade chip to go get that next guy to put next to Luka Dončić in the post LeBron James era. And we have to start having a real conversation about whether or not Austin Reaves just already is that guy for them, right? I saw something earlier that mentioned that it was from Kevin Garnett talking about the interest of Austin Reaves to potentially, go seek out his own team. And, we talked last episode about AJ Mitchell coming off the bench for the Oklahoma City Thunder and how many teams he could be the starting point guard for if he were in a different situation. And Austin Reaves, I think, there was conversations about him this past summer about like wanting to potentially, go to the San Antonio Spurs were a conversation. And the idea was, obviously pairing him up with Victor Wembanyama, but also, further bolstering up that backcourt. This was, of course, taking into consideration you had Stephon Castle, taking into consideration you have De'Aaron Fox, now you have Dylan Harper. So I think it had a lot to do with why a lot of the idea around that died down, beyond the fact that I think Austin Reaves was smart on betting on himself in an offseason where there wasn't a ton of money to go around these last 2 years, and he put himself in position to become a free agent around a time where there's going to be a lot more money out there and a lot more teams available to throw a bag at him. Austin Reaves, whether it's with the Lakers or it's with somebody else, is going to have the chance to be a number one option somewhere with the way he's playing. And I know that this is a 5-game sample size, but this type of progression is one that is going to be valued by somebody. Again, I use the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comp as kind of the baseline for this, and it's because it only takes one team to really believe in you after they've identified you as a talent. And hopefully the Lakers are smart enough to understand that they have a homegrown talent in Austin Reaves who can be a real fit next to Luka Dončić for the future. But if they don't have the finances to keep Austin Reaves in-house, if Austin Reaves was to be more than second fiddle to Luka Dončić, there are going to be teams that, with what they've been able to identify in terms of his progression, there's going to be teams that are smart enough to go pursue him as this secondary ball creator, either as the lead on your team or as a secondary option, but with a little bit more of a featured role. Could Austin Reaves be a really interesting fit in place of Jaden Ivey at the 2 guard position next to Cade Cunningham in Detroit? Yes, I think that would be a really interesting fit. Do I think that Austin Reaves could be the... Here's another interesting team that comes to mind. Austin Reaves as the lead point guard for the Houston Rockets next to Amen Thompson, who's a much better fit defensively next to someone like Austin, as opposed to having Luka Dončić as that secondary guy in the backcourt, and now they're both being picked on defensively. Yes, Austin is a competitive defender, but basically you're put in a position where you're forced to now put your 3 and your 4. They have to be high-level defenders to make up for the fact that Austin Reaves and Luka Dončić are, average to, in most cases, below average defenders at best. And usually those defensive first 3 and 4s end up being either, offensively deficient, or they're hyper reliant on having to be efficient as 3-point shooters because they can't do very much else from a shot creation standpoint. But if you have a high-level defender like Amen Thompson, a high-level defender like Jabari Smith, and then you have these shot generators in Austin Reaves and Kevin Durant, then Alper Sengun at your 5, that team looks insane now with him at the starting point guard position. And you can make the argument that he's like the number 1 guy in a sense on that team. I mean, yes, Alper Sengun is special, and of course, Kevin Durant is still an elite talent. But at least from a perimeter shot creation standpoint, like, everything would start with Austin in terms of bringing the ball up, generating offense at the top of the key, and trying to make things happen. Is he the number 1 option on the team? Not necessarily, but also think about Austin's future, right? This Lakers team does not have a lot of upside long term to be a championship contender around Luka Dončić because of their lack of resources outside of having significant cap space in the year of 2027, the same summer where they have to make a decision on whether or not they can bring back Austin Reaves, right? So Austin has to look around and also kind of wonder if he can grow any further in a Lakers uniform. See, that opportunity wasn't given to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was forced into a completely different situation, and thankfully, the Oklahoma City Thunder were not only able to identify him, but they were able to really help him develop and grow further beyond just this, savvy scorer off the bench that the LA Clippers kind of viewed as this luxury item. Austin Reaves, it's so early in the season, but Austin Reaves has been a really special player this year. And Austin, again, he made a really big decision a year or two ago to bet on himself and take a very team friendly deal in an off season where there were conversations about him landing in a bunch of different spots, with the San Antonio Spurs being one of the main names. And I think that summer was pre De'Aaron Fox. This is uh Stephon Castle. Uh, Stephon Castle, I don't know if he was on the team yet or not, or obviously, even if Steph was on the team, he was the only, real lead guard that the San Antonio Spurs had at the time. Austin really bet on himself, and now he's going to be playing himself into a position where financially teams are going to have him on their radar, and he's going to be a lead option somewhere. If he's not the number one, he's the number two, and he's going to be the number two, whether it's for the Lakers or somebody else. This dude is a special talent. Um, and his again, it's linear progression. This idea of going from this role player to being a third option to being this guy that when Luka Dončić and LeBron James are on the bench out due to injury, you can still run offense through him. You can still have him almost be this heliocentric option, and you kind of in a sense have to, because who else is really generating offense for this Lakers team with those two guys out? Rui Hachimura has been really solid offensively for this team. Marcus Smart's been okay. Jared Vanderbilt's been okay. Shout out to DeAndre Ayton. I was hating on him earlier on in the season, the first 2 or 3 games in, but if you really look at the sample size overall, he's been consistent. I don't necessarily trust him as a rim protector once we start talking about going into the postseason, but he's been a guy that you have to give him his flowers, at least in terms of what he's been able to do as a rebounder and being active on the glass. But in terms of really being able to generate consistent offense, I mean, it is the Austin Reaves show, and he is doing his due diligence and then some, and he's been absolutely amazing. That's kind of underselling just how big Austin Reaves has been so far this season. You guys let me know in the comment section down below. I don't know how consistent this will be throughout the season, of course, with Luka and LeBron coming back. But like, is Austin Reaves an MVP like talent right now? Is Austin Reaves in your top MVP ballot 5 games into the season? Or a separate question that might have a little bit more merit: how much do you think Austin Reaves is worth per year on the open market? Obviously, about 20 million and 20 to 25 million is on the low end. That's pushing herself around about Josh Giddey money for what he was able to get from the Chicago Bulls. And I think Austin Reaves is more valuable than that. You start getting into that 30 plus million range, you're talking about somebody similar to like De'Aaron Fox, who's looking for a contract this upcoming summer. Is Austin Reaves a more valuable player on the open market financially than someone like De'Aaron Fox? I think there's a real conversation there. You guys let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. I think there's a real convo there. And I think a lot of people might right now, with De'Aaron on the shelf and everything going on in San Antonio, where those two guards are hooping their minds off, you can really make a strong argument that Austin Reaves just is a even more valuable asset than someone like De'Aaron Fox, who has been much closer to being a potential All-Star than Austin Reaves has ever been in his career. And Austin, he might not be an MVP candidate by the end of the year, but he dang sure is going to be a guy that, with the way he's playing, is going to deserve some kind of All-Star consideration. But only time will tell. Next up,